It's not much, but it's enough.
But you're not even...
Have you ever been in love? It's pretty good.
Don't you love video games? I love video games. Surtur is right. It's pretty good to love video games. And 2022 pulled its weight after a bit of a slower 2021. So we're just celebrating a year of video games and giving you our top 10 games of the year. If any of your favorite games aren't on this list or rank lower than you like, that's okay. Let me know in the comments. I'm not here to dunk on your favorite games. This is just my list. Now, I didn't play every single game in 2022, but we can just talk about video games, nerd out a bit, have a grand old time. Also, thanks for those of you that subbed from the Elden Ring and Ragnarok video. It's got like 18,000 views or whatever before YouTube decided to be rude and age restricted. So without further ado, my name is Danny with the DMGT, the music, gaming, and tech channel. Here's our top 10 games of 2022. Coming off middling reviews of the brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remake, the Sinnoh region and Pokemon franchise as a whole got a much needed revamp to its core mechanics. Pokemon Legend Arceus didn't really do anything particularly new in the action open world genre per se, but slapping it into a Pokemon game was exactly what this franchise needed. Despite its flaws, this is a fun game that serves as a foundation to the future of the mainline series, as we're seeing with Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon and Nintendo continue to remind the gaming world that the first rule of gaming is have fun. Also, I do just love Pokemon in general, so it could be a bit of a bias. Side note, Scarlet and Violet didn't quite make the cutoff for 2022 ranking, but there's a chance it holds up for 2023. We'll see. Horizon Forbidden West, the first true next-gen feeling game. Visually, this game is unbelievable, a true feat of what the PS5 can do, which is impressive because it is a cross-gen game available on the PS4 as well. Not exactly sure how they pulled it off, but they did. I love the concept of this world since Zero Dawn, the sci-fi meets fantasy lore, the art style and costume design. It's all very cool. So why is it 9th on this list? Honestly, despite the fun I had playing and experiencing this game, besides the graphical fidelity and performance, the gameplay didn't really do anything exceptional. It's the Ubisoft formula that I'm mostly just tired of with open world games, and while it's probably the best implementation of that formula, you've played this game before. Still, I think it's worth your time and one of the better AAA games this year. Sometimes less is more, and Dwarf Romantic is a perfect example of that. A relatively simple puzzle and city building game, this is just that, a jigsaw puzzle in video game form. The implementation of tile building and mini quests in the form of said puzzles brings an experience that is unique per play session. Technically, there is no timer as long as you keep placing tiles that fit, sort of like Tetris. This is such a great way to just unwind and relax. The music is serene, the art style is comforting, an excellent cozy experience that only brought me joy while playing it this year. And then on the opposite side of the video game enjoyment spectrum, Call of Duty. This reboot of Modern Warfare 2 just works. Like I mentioned in my review of the campaign, Call of Duty is the McDonald's of gaming, but when you're craving it and it's made right, it just hits. Gunplay is tight and the toned down movement works for me, and while Warzone 2.0 definitely needs a bit of work, it generally works out to a fun time. Sure, you can make it as sweaty as you want and the weapon progression is finicky at best, but the dumb action fun button was hit just well enough to make the list. Speaking of opposite spectrums, how about Cute and Dark? This resource crafting, town building, farm sim action game is a trip and I love it. It's weird, it's cutesy, it's just a fun time. It's also much more complex than meets the eye, bringing that roguelike dungeon crawler with the town building. It plays relatively well, and while the combat isn't as deep as a Hades or a Tunic, it's a unique concept that wasn't afraid to take some risks. Another game with that as a mechanic, Sifu was hard, but also very fun. Combine a beat 'em up with a traditional fighting game mechanic and you get Sifu. Technically, it's not a proper fighting game, but its use of expanded abilities as you progress in the form of button combos was very reminiscent of a fighter gameplay, with a cool setting on top of it. Each death resulting as you aging as a character keeps you on your toes, and while I think a lot of people were definitely turned off by its difficulty, it's a fun challenge for those of you who enjoy pain. I have a soft spot for games like Tunic, similar to Death's Door in 2021. The action-adventure, old-school Zelda-like game is challenging on all fronts. Combat, puzzle solving. It looks cute and cozy at first, but it's actually quite complex. The gameplay is tight, the music is wonderful, and the isometric art style just works. A great example of world building through gameplay, reminiscent of Hollow Knight on that front. Tunic is a fun surprise that kept me on my toes the entire time, without the unforgiving lack of difficulty flexibility that may have held Sifu back on this list. Look, I'm a cat owner, so maybe that bias is showing up here with Stray at 3. Yes, some of the other games lower on this list have better combat and gameplay, but the absolute lightning in the bottle, the lore, the world setting, the compelling story this game provides in such a short time was just too impressive. This game was clearly a labor of love for a cat, but the implementation of exploration and traversal from a cat perspective was unique, and I just had an incredible time playing this game, knocking over things, jumping over buildings and obstacles, solving puzzles, an equally heartwarming and heart-wrenching game to experience. We've debated Ragnarok versus Elden Ring ad nauseum. This isn't for that. Ragnarok is one of the pinnacles of a story-based action game. Many people's own game of the year, and for good reason. Don't let the silly comment sections fool you. The race for game of the year was very, very close. Unparalleled character development, expanded combat to an already great combat experience from God of War 2018, access to more realms on top of reimagined ones we've already visited, grandiose and emotive music, a depiction of Nordic lore we haven't really seen in media. Damn, Ragnarok is just a great video game. I don't platinum games very often, but this was one I was just compelled to do so. This will be a gold standard for story-based action games for years to come, sitting along the likes of The Last of Us, Red Dead 2's campaign, God of War 2018. A worthy runner-up, almost a 1B for Game of the Year. Before we get into Game of the Year, which I think you already know by now, here's some honorable mentions that didn't make the list. Neon White, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, The Last of Us Part 1 Remake, Bayonetta 3, Splatoon 3, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Man, Elden Ring is an experience like no other. It's truly a generational level game. Sure, like Skyrim and Bethesda fans on that front, the hardcore From Software fans will say that other games in the Soulsborne genre are better, but Elden Ring tweaked enough of its own formula on top of resetting expectations for what an open world game means and then brought all of that to the mainstream. This is no longer a niche. Elden Ring made Call of Duty money this year, and for good reason. It was my own first From Software game and got myself along with millions of other gamers outside of our own comfort zones. Sure, not without its flaws like all games, but this is a true 5 out of 5 experience that will influence open world games for years to come. The world design, the art design, the music, the gameplay, the dungeons, the deep lore, the gameplay variety. No other game has brought all of that together at this scale. It may not be for everyone, and that's okay, but years from now, I don't think anyone will be able to deny this game's influence. Elden Ring is the DMGT's Game of the Year. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, this is just my list, so if there's any games that you love that didn't make the list or are a little bit lower than you'd like, just let me know in the comments, let's have a conversation about this. It was a really good year for gaming, so thanks for watching the video. Leave a thumbs up if you like, subscribe if you feel so inclined. Videos for our top albums and tech are coming soon. Thanks again, I'll catch you next time.